On a Monday episode of Locked On Raptors, Toronto drops a pair of games against the Bucks and Mavericks over the weekend that have me asking, where the hell's the D?
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Monday, October the 27th, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join as I smack my computer on my desk. We're off to a rollicking start here on a Monday where we are going to talk about a pair of Raptors losses, a very winnable game against the Milwaukee Bucks that goes the other way on Friday night, and then a game against the Mavericks that for 2.5, 3 quarters was like a wrestling match in a phone booth, really tightly contested back and forth, more than a dozen lead changes, I'm pretty sure. It was a really fun game that the Raptors completely came unspooled in the final quarter. The defense just kind of not getting it done. We will talk about that and the defensive struggles. We'll get into the crunch time issues on offense for the Raptors against the Bucks as well. Good, bad, all that stuff. But first, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And we are off and running here on your Monday edition of the show. We'll just go game by game here. Bucks, then Mavericks, then some grand takeaways, good, bad, to close the show. There was some through lines between these two games for sure, in particular the defensive struggles, the sort of lack of connectivity, the over-aggression at times causing problems on the back end. We'll get into all of that. But I do think the sort of prevailing takeaway from the Bucks loss on Friday, other than the defensive stuff that we'll get into, was just that, again, that felt like a very winnable game. The Raptors seemed like they had it in their grasp. And I think what undid them in that one was this was very much a starting lineup playing its first minutes of crunch time with one another in a real game and just kind of not knowing exactly how they wanted to approach it, right? You saw a lot of Immanuel Quickley overhandling the ball. And to his credit, he was getting into good positions with the ball very often. He just was missing easy layups quite a bit, missing floaters, not finishing on and one opportunities, and then missing a bunch of free throws as well. That was a problem team-wide. I mean, the Raptors in this game against the Bucks, if they just shoot normally from the line, they probably win it. It really was that winnable. It was that much on the sort of razor's edge of going one way or another. They go 21-32 at the line in this game. You can boil it down to all kinds of things, get into the X's and O's, get into what went wrong for the offense late in the game. But if they just hit some damn free throws, they probably win that game against the Bucks going away. And so, yeah, it's a tough one to get like too mad about, I would say. It was a game that I felt ultimately pretty good. And like, there are going to be a lot of games like that throughout the season for the Raptors up against those teams in the middle of the Eastern Conference, right? Talked about this on Friday. It's going to be a season-long slog of very competitive, interesting, compelling basketball games between the Raptors and their contemporaries. The Bucks very much in that conversation. And they just, didn't quite have the juice in that one to get it over the finish line. The offense down the stretch, as we saw, again, Brandon Ingram kind of gets iced out down the stretch in that game. Unfortunate because he was really damn good in that game as well. 29 points, a pretty easy 29 points that it felt like, 3-7 from downtown, just kind of doing exactly what the vision of Brandon Ingram within this team is going to be, right? Hitting threes, getting to his spots, bailing them out in half-court possessions where they weren't getting something quick and easy. I thought Ingram was fantastic, and for him to not really get any touches down the stretch, I think really did just speak to the lack of reps for that starting five and the lack of figuring out the balance between who has the ball when. I think Immanuel Quickley, there's a place for him to create, right? Like, he's not a terrible creative offensive player. He could be better. He has his issues, of course. I think he's gotten progressively better during his time with the team. He's better with keeping his dribble alive. I think his handle is actually quite tight. He's good at drawing fouls, all that stuff. But he's also a really good off-ball player, and I don't think they weaponized that nearly enough in this game. He only took in this game 4 threes. Darko Rajakovic talked after the game about how that's not enough. He wants 7 or 8 threes a game from Quickley. And I think a big part of that was he was just on the ball so often down the stretch that there weren't real clear opportunities for him to get those looks off. Yeah, he's got some pull-up to his game, and I think he missed a couple pull-ups in that game, but for the most part, like, he's a chameleon. He can play on and off the ball and affect what the defense is doing in both positions, and they just didn't really leverage the off-ball stuff with him super well down the stretch of that game. Should have been more Ingram creating and starting possessions, right? Darko even said, like, it's not about Ingram taking all of the shots in those situations. It's about Ingram using his immense gravity as a scorer. Like, teams are clearly worried when that dude has the ball. When he gets to 18, 14 feet away from the basket, the defense collapses because they're terrified, because he's probably going to hit it if he gets it off. And he's also a good passer and can make those looks out of seeing the extra attention. And they just didn't really leverage that very much down the stretch of this game whatsoever. And then you couple that with, you lose the rebounding battle. That's always going to be a tough thing for the Raptors. And look, the Bucks are a very big team. Giannis himself is a monster. He had 20 boards in this game on his own, 7 offensive rebounds. You're going to lose the rebound battle sometimes to big, chunky teams. And it's not like the Raptors are a tiny team. They're pretty big across the front court. They totally smashed the Hawks on the glass in their first game. But the Bucks are a different animal with Miles Turner in the front court, with Giannis. Like, that's just a really big team. And Giannis himself is just kind of a force of nature. Getting to the defense, I think, again, the through lines we saw from the game on Friday and the game Sunday really were on the defensive end, right? I think a few things. I didn't like the way they guarded Giannis a lot of the time. And look, there's no one way to guard Giannis. He's going to destroy you no matter what you do, right? Like, he's a good passer. He's going to sometimes just split a double team and dunk on your skull. Like, he's just going to do that. He's Giannis Antetokounmpo for a reason. But I think the Raptors did themselves many favors guarding Giannis in this game. First of all, I thought their help just wasn't very imaginative, right? Like, if you're going to send two to Giannis to try to force a turnover, to try to make a tough read, you got to at least make it hard on him. And I think there were way too many instances of Giannis gets the ball at the elbow. The closest guy to him is AJ Green, because they're setting it up that way, right? They want the help to come off of their best shooter. So AJ Green's like a short 8-foot pass away, 10-foot pass away. And the help was just coming from AJ Green's guy all the time. And Giannis is going to make that read, and AJ Green's going to hit that shot every single time. You have to be more, I think, selective about where you're doubling from, when you're doubling. Are you sending help from the baseline? Are you going to help the helper and rotate over so someone's going over to Green's guy to make that skip pass the thing that Giannis has to do? There's got to be a little more connectivity there and a little more creativity in how you are sending that extra attention Giannis's way. Again, there's no perfect way to do it. He's fantastic. He was also hitting threes in this game. He was 2 of 2 from downtown. Like, he was going to probably power them to a win in that game with how he was playing, but they didn't do themselves any favors. The Raptors didn't, in terms of how they guarded him. And I think that also applied to how they guarded him in single coverage too, right? We'll talk more about the aggression stuff coming up in the next segment as we get to what went wrong in the Mavericks game. But I'm pro this aggressive style of defense. I think forcing turnovers and just limiting the other team's attempts to score baskets is ultimately a pretty good thing to try to do. There's a reason it worked for the Pacers and for the Thunder last year. Like, it's an effective strategy. And I think we saw this kind of pioneered during the Nick Nurse era. It's not a bad thing to be aggressive on defense, but I do think you got to be more selective about it. It just can't be all the time you're going full out to pick up at the highest possible pickup point, getting as close to someone as possible on the ball, trying to poke for steals at every corner. Like, you're not going to poke the ball away from Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's very strong. He's got a good handle for his size. He's not someone you're going to go force a million turnovers on. And I thought the Raptors were just like way too eager to just pick him up at like half court, pick him up at the 3-point line in the half court. Like you can just like give him a little space. If he's going to pull threes on you, fine. But I think they just made it way too easy for him to kind of turn the corner on his guy, get into the teeth of the defense. And then all of a sudden you're scrambling because you have Giannis barreling towards the rim. You've got your help kind of collapsing down. He's got shooters all around him. I just think they could have been a little more conservative in how they guarded Giannis in this game. And I was sitting with Matt Bonner up watching the game, and he kind of was on this. Like, why are they picking Giannis up so high up the floor? Like, he's not a threat to shoot. In fact, it's giving him more leeway to be just like his bowling ball steam train self. If you're just giving him this edge to go turn around a guy in open space, I think this kind of burned them in both games against Milwaukee and Dallas too. Like in semi-transition in particular, they're getting way too aggressive on stopping the ball way too high up the floor. Like they're stopping the ball. Like you got to stop the ball in transition. It's job number one, but you can also like corral the ball and sort of veer a ball handler away from the rim to kind of make them reset things. And I think when you're in semi-transition, there were a few instances against Giannis and Cooper Flag in particular over this weekend where you just kind of like go all out to meet him as high as possible on the floor in semi-transition. There's no help set up behind you because everyone's making their way back. And if he burns you, you're screwed. You've got nothing. You've got no back line of defense. And I think that was a big recurring problem with both Giannis and Cooper Flag that kind of led to the bad transition defense for the Raptors over the weekend as well. So lots of stuff to clear up. Again, the Bucks game, I think, was eminently winnable if a few things sort of are done differently and they hit some damn free throws. It wasn't a bad performance necessarily. You didn't even get like the most efficient Scottie Barnes game or anything like that. Thought he was very good defensively. That was, again, a through line. Scottie Barnes is doing everything on defense. Others got to join him because, yeah, it's not looking super hot right now. And Immanuel Quickley, right? Like, we'll get into Quickley as well. He was not great against the Mavericks. I would argue much worse against the Mavericks than he was against the Bucks. But he's got to sort some stuff out as well with the aggression on defense and just like the, figuring stuff out in the half court, figuring out his balance, where he fits in, where he needs to press the gas pedal, where he needs to defer to someone else. He took the blame after that game, and fair enough. Like, he was not good, and he kind of was commandeering the offense for long stretches in that final spell of the game. There was more than just Quickley going on in that game, but certainly he was not part of the solution necessarily, and I think that carried over into the game on Sunday as well against the Mavs, where we're going to talk coming up next about really two guys who I think were kind of going to wear that loss against the Mavericks. Immanuel Quickley and Jakob Poeltl, who looked very rough. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the half-court defense once again coming unspooled against Dallas as we continue our review of a 0-2, not so awesome weekend for your Toronto Raptors. We'll do that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401k, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why you can use Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It's that simple. It's just a command center for your entire life. Maybe you're like me and you don't like doing admin. I hate doing admin. I don't like having to go and log into a million accounts, see where my money's at, set up my bills, all that stuff. I don't like it at all. Monarch, it gives you visual dashboards and smart tools to make it easier to understand where your money's going and how to make it work harder for you. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is rolling. The NBA is back, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and jump prices that jump right before the checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is go cheer your team on. That's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I bet there are some pretty affordable Raptors tickets for Wednesday night, Raptors Rockets, when Game 5 of the World Series is going on. I don't know if anyone's going to be making it the priority to go to that game last minute, but if you're a big Raptors fan who also wants to watch the Blue Jays in the arena after, the Raptors are doing that. You can stick around the whole night and watch the game. And let me tell you, I was watching in the bowl during Addison Barger's Grand Slam on Friday in Game 1, and that place was electric. It was super fun. If you want a cool, unique way to watch the World Series, go buy tickets to Raptors Rockets on Wednesday. Watch the game. Then stick around and watch the World Series after. It's pretty sweet. Take the guess we're going to buying tickets with Game Time. It's wonderful. Take the Game Time app or download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Back at it here on your Monday edition of Locked On Raptors, talking Raptors Mavericks now. Sunday night's game in Dallas, a game that for, again, 3 quarters, 2.5 quarters was a ton of fun, felt super competitive, and I was just sitting there just like basking in the glory of watching a team play competitive, interesting basketball again. It's been a long time, man, and even a 10-point loss that probably should have been by more feels good compared to some of the wretched trash we've watched the last couple seasons. Again, lots to work on, lots to be improved upon, not some sort of death knell for the season by any means. But yeah, this was not pretty especially down the stretch. And look, the defense wasn't super sound the entire game. I think transition-wise, it's just been kind of a rough go for the Raptors defensively so far. Not picking dudes up properly. They've been excellent running in transition themselves. They've been fantastic, but they gave up, 131 offensive rating in transition last night to Dallas. Not great. The Raptors themselves scored incredibly on the run as well. We can get to that too. But just like a very, very unconnected defensive performance in this game for sure. And I talked about some of it, right? The over exuberance at the point of attack in certain cases. And I also just think their pick and roll defense has been really, really rough. It's really just looking like two guys guessing as to what they want to do in terms of how they're going to do it. Are they going to switch? Is Poeltl going to hedge? Is someone going to drop? Like it's just like the pick and roll defense has been rough. The starters defense has been terrible, like 128 defensive rating for the Raptors starting lineup so far. Their offense has been doing just fine. It's getting by, looking good. The defense is getting totally cut apart. And I think, Scottie Barnes is doing his part. He's been fantastic. He's there cleaning messes every time he can. I think he's been outstanding on the defensive end so far, but everywhere else, you're really seeing a lot of chasms just kind of getting plunged into by the other team's drivers and in transition. Like I said, the semi-transition stuff, you're picking guys up way too early. There's no one on the back line. You get burned, you're screwed. That happened a lot in this game, specifically with Cooper Flag. Poeltl, I think it's Poeltl and IQ are kind of the two guys in this game, right? Though I will say Brandon Ingram's defense at the point of attack has also been quite rough. When he's working pick and roll defense with Jakob Poeltl, that's looked just as bad as the IQ Jakob Poeltl defensive pick and roll combination. Not looking pretty. To Ingram's credit, I think he's been really good as a help defender, kind of swiping in for steals, getting hands on balls as a helper on drives. That's been great. He's offered some nice secondary rim protection as well in emergency situations, but point of attack defense, Ingram's getting cooked. It happened in the game on Friday against the Bucks as well. Having a hard time staying in front of guys. And that's part of the deal with Brandon Ingram. I do think, though, again, the way they're asking their guys to defend, they are asking a lot of aggression. They're asking to fight over screens any chance they get. And that's leading to, I think, a lot of breakdowns and a lot of guys just kind of getting walked in space by guys they probably shouldn't be getting walked by either, right? Like I think Cooper Flag kind of dusted Ingram a couple times here and there. But back to Poeltl. I mean, Poeltl was, I think, the biggest reason the Raptors lost this game. Not a good performance from him whatsoever. Just 4 points, 2 or 3 from the field. And just looked out of sorts, looked slow, looked like he didn't quite know where to stand, which is a weird thing. Jakob Poeltl's whole thing is, I'm really good at knowing where to stand. But I think on both ends of the floor in this game, he looked very out of sorts, catching the ball at usual spots where he'd just put up a floater and just not doing it, feeling very out of sync in the offense. I think, he looked a lot like Scottie Barnes did in the preseason in this game against the Mavs, where just couldn't find his place within the offense to exist and, sort of cohabitate with everybody else. It was pretty rough stuff. And then defensively, look, the Mavericks, they got some guys who are going to pull you out. If you're not playing Derek Lively, they're going to probably put AD at the 5 or, PJ Washington's out there, Cooper Flag's out there. Poeltl had to defend on the perimeter a lot in this game. And throughout his career, Poeltl's been a pretty good dude dancing in space with not guards necessarily, but with wings. He can hold his own. He's got good feet. He's been pretty fleet of foot throughout his career. That's always been, at least, if not a strength, it's not been a weakness by any means. But in this game, he was just getting walked from the perimeter by dudes routinely. And it left them without a whole lot at the back end. They were pretty threadbare in terms of guys there to provide rim protection. And then you get into foul trouble as well. He had 5 fouls in this game. He fouled out of his first game against the Hawks as well. It looks like obviously the back stuff in the preseason is maybe not fully gone, or he's just getting up to speed. He says he feels good. So there's that. Maybe it's playing the mask. I don't know. Jakob Poeltl's been very bad to start the season. I don't think it's going to persist this way. I don't think he just forgot how to play basketball overnight, but they got to sort it out soon. That's a contract they signed this summer. That's a pretty big bet on Jakob Poeltl staying like Jakob Poeltl for many years to come. And I don't think it's going to continue to look like it has through the first 3 games, but it cannot look like it has through the first 3 games and have this be any kind of successful season or successful contract or whatever, right? It's just you got to be better. He's looked totally out of sorts. And again, I think some of it's the over aggressiveness on defense stuff. I'm not sure if they're saying, Jakob Poeltl, you got to pick up guys at the perimeter as high as you possibly can. I don't think that's really happening. I think it's a lot of, the transition stuff, cross matching, getting stuck on Cooper Flag in transition, not going to go well for Jakob Poeltl. He's going to probably foul or he's going to get walked. The sort of, again, the pick and roll connection. It's not just on the big man, right? If the guy at the point of attack can't stay on the ball, that puts the big man in a position, that where they're prone, and it's just tough to recover from that, right? And I think Quickley's had a weird defensive start to the season where he's been really good in a couple stretches. I think he's been really good in rotation, really good at kind of making the right rotation and kind of being there to ward off a drive. His contesting has been really good. Rotationally, always a very good defender. Point of attack, been more of a mixed bag, right? First game, I thought it was very good. Last couple games, not so much, getting hung up on screens, that type of thing. And I thought that was really present in this game against the Mavericks. And it just kind of cut the head off of their defensive pick and roll combination quite often. And so, yeah, they were just kind of backtracking, trying to fill in space, trying to recover, and they just didn't have it. And so, look, again, I don't think Poeltl's going to stay this bad. I think he is someone who is just too baseline competent for this to just be his baseline going forward. I would expect it's just that he's out of sync and that he's out of rhythm and that it's going to get better from here. He did have a nice game against, I think, the Hawks to start the season. That was, it's really looked pretty good. He's been quiet the last couple, but it's just, he's got to be better. It's like it's a non-negotiable for this team, because as much as Mamu's awesome and he's been fantastic coming off the bench and he's putting up 9 points a game and he's dunking on dudes and everything, he's not a defensive center. And as much as he opens up the offense for Scottie, and those two guys have been awesome in their minutes together, you just got to have that backline rim protection. And I just, he's not going to provide that. And Scottie can only do so much. It's helpful that Murray-Boyles is back. Didn't look great in his debut last night, but it was his debut, and I think he'll get there. And his defense is very clearly going to be a strength. That possession where, yes, Cooper Flagg got the better of him, but he just defended Flagg beautifully for 14 consecutive seconds, just bouncing off of him before Flagg finally got a tough shot off and scored. I think that speaks to, Colin Murray-Boyles is going to be an asset for improving this defense as well. It's just, and again, I think I don't have an issue with them being an aggressive defensive team, right? I think it makes sense in a lot of ways. It's the way the league is going. I think they could be more selective about it at times. I think they could sort of scale it down for certain guys. I don't think I need Brandon Ingram being a high pickup point guy. I don't think I need Quickley always doing it, although I think he's been fine with that. I just think they got to sort of figure out exactly how to turn the dials for every one of their guys. It doesn't have to be full tilt for everybody. It can be, yes, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Colin Murray-Boyles, you guys go full tilt. Scottie Barnes, go full tilt. Some of your other guys, maybe you go a little more conservative to try to maintain positionality and keep you out of rotation, that type of stuff. And I think they'll figure it out, right? This is what the coaching staff does. They see the games, they watch the tape, they adapt and evolve based on what the tape is showing them. I think there will be some adaptation here, but so far, 100% all-out aggression is not great. And I do think as well, they don't necessarily need to be a team that is this aggressive on defense. I think they're a team that can be a living off of their defensive rebounding more than anything else to get in transition. They have been fantastic running off of defensive boards. 47.5% of the defensive boards they've grabbed so far this year have turned into a transition opportunity. They are running like madmen when they get the ball off the glass. Yes, there have been some steals worked in there as well, but way more of their transition attack comes out of grabbing defensive rebounds and going and just kind of filling the lanes as well as they've been doing. I think Quickley, to his credit, has been fantastic orchestrating the break, making those sort of middle of the floor passes to extend those transition opportunities, get it to the right guys at the right times, find those early steals from Scottie Barnes, all of it. They've been killing it off defensive rebounds. And in their half-court offense has been totally fine. It's middle of the pack, totally adequate. They're not getting completely run off the floor in the half-court like they used to. And so the need to sort of fight and hunt for every single steal is maybe not totally there. Again, it's just kind of turning the dials, right? And kind of adjusting to the strengths of the team. And I think right now the strength of the team is if we get defensive rebounds, we can't be stopped because we are running and we're just making teams have to defend 94 feet every single time we pull it down off the glass. And I think that can be as much of a viable fuel for their transition game as steals can be. And so if you're over aggressive and you're giving up a layup line at the back end because of that, because your backline rim protection is not there, because Jakob Poeltl's not as mobile as he might be once he gets to full steam, all that stuff, you're giving yourself fewer opportunities to run off of those misses, right? It's pretty simple. Force the misses, get the board and run. And look, they've been up against two very good, large rebounding teams in the Bucks and the Mavericks. Not every team is going to be that big, but a lot of teams have a lot of big dudes. That's the way the league is going. That said, I think they have the juice to be a good rebounding team. Scottie Barnes is a great rebounder. Jakob Poeltl's always been a good rebounder. Ingram's a good rebounder for his position, has shown that so far this year. I think they can do it. RJ Barrett's a good rebounder for his position. I think they have the juice to be a really effective defensive glass cleaning team that they can turn into transition without having to lean on the steals as their only source of getting it on the run. And I think that was kind of the big takeaway for me from that game against the Mavericks. Yeah, it's they'll figure it out, I think. Not great to be sitting here 1-2 playing Wemby tonight. That's terrifying. The Spurs are 3-0. They look fantastic. Would be great to go 1-3, but also not a death knell by any means to the season if they do. I think this team is not currently playing at a maximized level. I think they're still figuring some stuff out, and they'll get there, but certainly they've got to iron out some kinks here, especially on the defensive end, if they want to do anything. They're 19th in defense so far through 3 games across the league. Not good enough if you want to be the serious team that you hoped that you would be. We'll come back on the other side. We're going to get into the good, the bad, and the to round out the show. And the big question is, what the hell will they do with Wemby tonight? That will be included in our final part of the show. We'll do that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Of course, it's not just the NBA. You got futures bets on the NHL as the season's just kind of getting rolling here. Baseball playoffs. If you want to bet on the World Series, that's the time to do it because the World Series is happening. There's awards bets for the NBA and NHL. And of course, you got your weekly NFL action as well to go and peruse on their very easy to use app. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right. Put down $5. If it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back at it here, closing things out on your Monday edition of Locked On Raptors. After a pair of Raptors losses over the weekend, we got the good, the bad, and the thing I liked, thing I didn't like, and this got me a little bit intrigued about the latest Toronto Raptors basketball game or games. We wrap up every single episode of this here podcast in the heels of a Toronto Raptors basketball game or games. And so let's get to it. The good for me, we didn't get to talk about him much in the Dallas section of the show, but Scottie Barnes was awesome in the game against Dallas. One of his more like casually fantastic games as a pro, 33 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, a steal. There on defense to kind of, cause havoc and, didn't have a ton of counting stats in this game, but I thought his impact was pretty immense. 13 to 24, 3 of 5 from downtown. That mid-range jumper from the free throw line seems like it's absolutely butter for him right now. That's great to see. He's doing such good work in transition and semi-transition, just carving out space and just making defenses panic, right? He's either getting the ball and going up and scoring immediately, or he's getting the ball, drawing two, and then finding cutters or finding shooters. And he's been great. I really am impressed with Scottie Barnes so far. Like, it seemed like it was going to take some real time for him to find where he was going to butter his bread in this offense in the preseason. And so far, it really seems like he's exactly found those spots, and he's just buttering bread all over the place. It was a really, really encouraging game from him against like a big Dallas team with a lot of dudes to throw at him. Didn't seem bothered. Again, one of his just like most casually fantastic games. One of his better games as a pro. Shame he lost. Shame the Raptors couldn't take advantage of it. He was a +5 in this game. I think that very much made sense. He was basically the source of everything that was good on both ends of the floor for the Raptors in this game. Really great to see from Scottie Barnes. The bad, let's circle back on Immanuel Quickley a little bit because, it was not pretty, and the three-point shot just ain't falling for him right now, and that's not great. I think if the three-point shot were falling, you'd probably be feeling a little bit better about the other things that are going on in his game. The maybe over-dribbling at times and the issues he's had with, interior scoring, although kind of shocking. He is shooting right now 91% at the rim per cleaning the glass. It's been the mid-range sort of short-range floaters and stuff that have really been the problem for him. He's finishing at the rim. He's getting to the rim more often than he ever has as well, nearly 30% of the time, which is like almost double his career average for rim frequency. It's 3 games. We'll see if it holds up, but there's a lot of process stuff that I'm liking with Immanuel Quickley, the transition playmaking and all of that, but the three's not falling. really hurts them. And defensively, I focus a lot on his defense in the game against the Mavericks, but against the Bucks, like he was kind of running around with like a chicken with his head cut off in the final stretch of that game, just like constantly just kind of spamming, hunting for steals and not really staying positionally sound whatsoever. Again, he took the blame for the loss. I think that applies to both his offense and defense. I think he was really rough at the point of attack defensively in that game against the Bucks, just kind of getting, and again, against a team that didn't have really any point of attack ball handlers outside of Giannis worth worrying about, right? With no Kevin Porter Jr. He was just getting walked by Ryan Rollins and Cole Anthony. Tough stuff. Those guys are not particularly good players, and they were looking like just like rim merchants with Quickley guarding him because he was just, again, way too overzealous, way too in the guy's shirts. And again, a need for that sort of selectivity to tone down the aggression in times where it matters. I think that was as much a problem late in that game for the Raptors against the Bucks as their half-court offense with the starters was. Yeah, tough stuff. Not a great start for Quickley. Although, again, if the threes fall and he's shooting 35% from three as opposed to 11% from three, things look a lot better. He's averaging nearly 20 a game if that's the case. Like, he's looking fine. I think there's reason to feel good about where it's going, but the Dallas game, not great. Not his best work by any means. He's the bad. And the Raptors take on the Spurs tonight. The Spurs are 3-0. They have a plus 16 point differential through 3 games. They are waxing teams, and Victor Wembanyama looks like an absolute destroyer of worlds. I am fascinated to see what the Raptors do with him tonight. I can't wait. I think, your classic sort of ground-bound center is probably food against him. Look, most people are going to be food against him. He's just like that dominant. He's incredible. It's like watching an alien. I don't understand where, like, we might just have to like pack it in. The NBA might be over for the next 5-10 years. I have no idea. He's ridiculous. But I do think the Raptors have a couple guys that can throw at Wemby who historically have kind of fit the bill of, okay, this guy can kind of give him some trouble because it's sort of like if you're smaller than him, which everyone is smaller than him, but if you're strong and you're handsy and you're long, I think you can kind of disrupt him a little bit from a lower center of gravity than, your classic like 7'2" center might be able to. And I think Scottie Barnes in particular feels pretty well suited to being the guy you throw at Wemby as the primary. Yak probably guards, whoever else is filling in the front court. And I think that's fine. He's offering help whenever Wemby gets through the rim. And like help is only going to go so far against Wemby. That guy's insane. But I think Scottie, like, this will be a great test for Scottie as like this sort of defensive ace kind of do everything guy for the Raptors. I think he should get the Wemby assignment. And the nice thing too is like, if this were last year and you're up against Wemby and you have Scottie having to take that assignment all night, your offense is probably going to be cooked because he's just using all of his energy to stop that freak. And he's just not able to do a whole lot on the offensive end because of all that energy expenditure. But I think now with Brandon Ingram, you have a little bit more balance, right? And you can kind of give Scottie the leeway to just kind of lean all the way into a defensive matchup and really try to thrive in that. And the offense will be what the offense is for him. And hey, maybe he's able to still have a good offensive night. We'll see. But yeah, I think really fascinating to see how they handle the Wemby of it all. And I do think they've got to figure out a way to get more threes off as well. Like, this is the best rim protector alive. Any shot inside like 8-10 feet is going to probably get at least contested or altered, if not swatted away into the third row by Wemby. I think it's going to be a rough night for Immanuel Quickley trying to find that floater touch again, because that is exactly within the block radius of Wemby. I think they're going to have to ratchet up the volume like they were in the preseason from deep, right? Like, they were up to north of 43s a game in the preseason. It looked encouraging. They've been under 33 every game so far this season, not shooting terribly well from deep. They were better against the Bucks, 11-27. They were 13-33 against the Mavericks as well. So the percentages have been fine. Just got to get the volume up. And if Quickley could start hitting some, man, that'd be huge tonight, because that is going to be where he's able to affect this game more than anywhere else. Because I don't think he's going to shoot 91% at the rim against Victor Wembanyama. It's just a hot take I have. It might not be popular. It should be. Wemby's a freak. Yeah, it's kind of all I got. Mamu revenge game tonight against the Spurs as well. That could be fun. We're going to leave it there, though. Thank you so much for rocking with the show, and enjoy Raptors Spurs tonight. I'll be watching it after Game 3 of the World Series, full disclosure. So I'll have a pod about it tomorrow. Won't be doing anything in real time tonight, but I will once the baseball playoffs are over and my night is not consumed by nerves and ulcers, I will start doing some late night podcasting as well. And we'll have some late, breaking coverage for you right after games to meet you where you are. But in the meantime, thank you so much for rocking with the show, following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, telling a friend. Always appreciated when you support however it is you choose to support. And we will talk to you again very soon on Tuesday, in fact, with another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye. I left my basketball on the floor. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Here we go. Maybe I'll do that more often. Bye.